parents and teachers sometimes ask me, how do you say what you see when there's more than one child? It's pretty much the same as how you say what you see when there's one. You just do it one after the other, one at a time. So I just had a little experience of that today. I was outside and there were 3 kids that I know. One was an 8-year-old girl, one was an 8-year-old boy, and the other was a 4-year-old girl, and they were all playing together in the yard. The 8-year-old girl had the hose and was doing a little squirting, and the other 2 kids were trying to hide from the water. And but at the point that I came up, the two children that were sprinkled weren't very happy about it. And the 8-year-old girl was crying. So I came up and said, wow, something's wrong here. And the little 8-year-old boy pipes up and says, yeah, she squirted me. Look, I'm all wet. And I said, well, you didn't want to be wet. It looks to me like, you got wet and you didn't like that. And then the little bitty 4-year-old girl says back to me, look, I got wet too. And she showed me each spot on her shirt, the little spots that were there. Well, meanwhile, the 8-year-old girl is crying. And she's become very defensive. So she must not have felt like she'd been heard. That's the first clue when a child gets defensive. And she didn't feel something was fair. That's sort of where that anger and upset comes from. So I turned to her and said, wow, these kids got squirted and they didn't want to. And she said, well, they looked like they did. They were laughing and they were running and trying to hide behind the tree. And I said, oh, so you were squirting and you thought they were playing. And the other kids are going, no, we weren't playing. And I turned to her and said, they weren't playing. And she said, but they were laughing. And I said, oh, so if you knew that they weren't having fun, you would have stopped. And she nodded. Now, at this point, all the defensiveness is gone. All the children have been heard. And all that's left to do is open up the door for a little bit of problem solving here. One of the routes that you could go at that point would be to just say, you didn't want to play and you wanted to squirt them and thought that was fun. Must be something you guys can do next time, and let them solve it. In this particular case, I just jumped right in and I offered a couple of suggestions and said, maybe next time you could take a look at their faces and see if they're really laughing, if they really think it's fun, or maybe you could watch for that point where they go from laughing, which sometimes they start at, to the point where they're kind of sad or upset about it. Then you could stop. So you could get really good at reading that. And I turned to the other kids and said, sounds like you guys needed to say you didn't like it, because she didn't know. And she was nodding and going, I didn't know. And the little kids said, well, we didn't like it. And I said, can you say, I don't like that? Can you say, stop, I don't like that? And the little boy said, yeah, I can say that. And the little girl, the 4-year-old girl said, I can say it really loud. And I said, whoa, that sounds like one of these outside voices of yours. Here, stand back over there. So she stood back and I said, okay, let me hear. And she went, I don't like that. And I just laughed. It was so cute. And I said, that'll work. That'll work for you. So, all that saying what you see does, all that you need to do, really, to open up children's dialogue and let them actually say their side of the story, you just say what you see. You say what you see them saying and feeling and thinking and doing. If there's something that you saw them doing, you just say those things as objectively as possible, no judgment, and the kids are going to open right up and tell you what's going on. So the cool thing about Say What You See is that in addition to validating kids' feelings and thinking processes, Say What You See gives you a way to be with children so that they can learn to solve their problems on their own.